Okay, let's talk about something that sounds super simple, right? Ordering food over the phone. But, doing it in English, that can be a whole different story. It can be surprisingly stressful. So today, we're going to break it all down, step by step. The goal here is to turn that anxiety into total confidence. Ready? Let's dive in.
So, does this whole thing feel a little intimidating? I mean, have you ever had that moment where your heart starts beating just a little bit faster right before you dial the number? If you have, you are so not alone. It's a super common hurdle for English learners. That fear, the fear of not understanding them or maybe them not understanding you, it's totally real. But hey, don't worry. We are going to pull back the curtain and show you just how easy it can be.
So, to make this really practical, we're going to follow a little case study. Let's meet our two friends, Sam and Ellie. Their everyday lunchtime problem is going to be our guide. We'll see exactly how a real world food order happens from the very beginning to the very end. All right, part one, the decision to order in. So, where does our story start? Well, like a lot of great stories, it begins with two hungry people and that classic, age old question, what are we going to eat for lunch? So here's the situation. It's 12:30 p.m., right in the middle of lunchtime, and it is scorching outside. We're talking 35 degrees Celsius, that's about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, way too hot to even think about walking to a restaurant. So, what's the solution? It's pretty obvious, right? Let's get some delivery. Okay, so they gotta choose the meal. They run through their options pretty quick. What about Chinese food? Nah, they just had that yesterday. Hamburgers? Nope, had those 2 days ago. And that leaves us with a clear winner, pizza. I mean, you can never go wrong with pizza, right? It's a classic for a reason. And here's the final plan. Now, notice this. They get really specific. It's not just, let's get pizza. It's one large pepperoni pizza and two colas. And this right here is such a key step. Seriously, deciding on your full order before you even pick up the phone, it makes the whole call go so much smoother. Okay, let's move on to part two, your pre-call phone script. So the decision is made. They know what they want, but now comes the part that gets a little tricky for a lot of people, actually making the phone call. And for Ellie, this is where that nervousness starts to creep in. Yeah, Ellie says it herself. I'm a little nervous about calling. It makes me a little scared. And that's such a common feeling, isn't it? But this is that exact moment where just a little bit of prep can make a world of difference. And this is where Sam comes in with some really simple but honestly powerful advice. He tells her, hey, the conversation is always the same. Think about it. These calls almost always follow a predictable script. Restaurants want them to be efficient. And the great thing is, you can learn that pattern. Once you know the script, that fear of the unknown, it just kind of disappears. So, key phrase number one. This is your opener. It's so important because it's clear, it's polite, and it tells them exactly what you want right away. Just say, hi, I'd like to order for delivery, please. Boom, simple. That one sentence gets the whole conversation started on the right foot. And then key phrase number two. This is where you actually place the order. The structure is super simple. You just use the magic words, can I have, and then say what you want. Can I have a large pepperoni pizza? It's direct, it's polite, and there's absolutely no confusion. Okay, but what if you get stuck? What if they say something and you just don't understand? This is where having a verbal safety net is a total game changer. So Sam gives Ellie a couple of simple, what I like to call recovery phrases that she can use to get the conversation back on track. Recovery phrase number one is so simple and everyone understands it. Sorry, can you say that again? And you really have to remember, this is not rude at all. It is a completely normal, polite thing to say. Trust me, native speakers say this to each other all the time. All right, recovery phrase number two. What if the problem isn't what they said, but how fast they said it? Then this phrase is going to be your best friend. Sorry, can you speak more slowly? And look, this isn't admitting you failed. No way. You are actively taking control of the conversation and setting a pace that works for you. That's an incredibly powerful thing to be able to do. So let's jump into part 3, making the live call. Okay, Ellie's got her script, she's got her safety phrases, she's feeling prepared. Now let's see how all this prep work pays off during the real thing. You know, when you look at it, any food order call really has an anatomy. You can break it down into these 4 simple steps. Step 1, state your purpose. Step 2, place your order. Step 3, give your details. And step 4, confirm and close. When you think about it like that, it makes the whole thing feel way less complicated. And check this out. Watch how Ellie handles a curveball. The person on the phone asks about extra toppings, which wasn't part of their original plan. But does she panic? Nope. She thinks on her feet, adds mushrooms for an extra $1, and then calmly gives her name and address, 24 Oak Street, apartment 3B. This is the perfect example of how having that script as a base gives you the confidence to handle anything unexpected they throw at you. All right, on to part 4, handling the final details. The main part of the order is done. Now it's just about locking in the last few logistics, the cost and when it's going to get there. So the final total comes out to $18.50, and that covers the large pizza, the 2 colas, and of course that extra $1 for the mushrooms that Ellie added. And this brings up another super practical, real-world thing you'll definitely run into, splitting the bill. So the total is $18.50. Sam gives Ellie a $10 bill for his share, and Ellie will just pay the rest. It's a really simple, super common way to share the cost when you're eating with friends. And then we get the last and maybe most important piece of information from the call. The order will be there in about 30 minutes. Perfect. Now all they have to do is sit back and wait for the pizza to arrive. And that brings us to our final section, part 5, from practice to pizza. So, spoiler alert, the pizza shows up right on time. But along with that delicious pizza comes a lesson that's honestly way more valuable than just lunch. And this right here, this is the whole point. Ellie has this great realization. Trying new things is scary, but it usually turns out fine. And that's something we can all take away, right? That feeling of fear before you do something new is almost always worse than actually doing it. She faced that fear, she made the call, and she found out, hey, this wasn't just fine. It was actually pretty easy. So there you have it. We've walked through the whole thing, from deciding what to eat all the way to that pizza showing up at the door. You now have the script, you've got the recovery phrases, you've got a clear plan for how to do this. You have all the tools you need. So really, there's only one question left to ask. What are you gonna order first?